everyone. My name is Norman Mauer. I'm a Senior Talent Strategy Advisor at Indeed. Don't bother understanding my title. I'm still trying to explain to my grandma what I'm actually doing, but it's a different story here. So I thought, as basically the first presentation after Gabor's intro, I thought we start with something uplifting. Labor shortage. Yeah. So honestly spoken, we all know that we have a labor shortage right now. Basically, I think this is one of the main reasons why we are sitting here. I'm not talking about rocket scientists only. I'm also talking about basically warehouse workers, doctors, tech specialists, software developers, whatever you want to call it. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to do like fear mongering right now. I don't want to tell you that everything basically is horrible and there's no way out of it, because these kinds of mindsets will basically lead you nowhere. Just stagnation, and basically nobody wants that. So I thought I speak about two things right now. A, how to adapt to a certain market, and if done so, how to adjust your process. By the way, if you already done that and everything is working fine for you, first of all, congratulations for that. I don't know why you stick around here, but great to have you here. For the rest, maybe I have some insights that lead you somewhere in the process. And trust me, and I will promise you one thing, this presentation will contain no information about ChatGPT or AI at all. I just promise you that. So let's start with the market itself, because the market itself is, as you may be aware of, pretty important. And when I speak about market, I speak about supply and demand. Before somebody starts saying, oh, we're talking about humans right now, I know, but still, supply and demand is important, because supply and demand basically means know your figures, right? We are in the HR business sector, I got that. But finally, in the end, after all the things that we love to do, speaking to humans, like growing companies, growing organizations, in the end, we need resources, right? We need money and we need time, and time is money, I know. Yeah. So if you are able to present figures based on statistics, you are in the basically good position to talk on a neutral ground about what you need, right? Because in the end, it's always the same. If there's a shortage of something, the price will go up. That's usually the case. So you need more resources, maybe. And usually, somewhere in the process, there's someone with an Excel sheet saying, well, I don't have any more money, so sorry about that. But you can say, right, but you need more people, right, to make more money. Is that correct? Yeah. So I will need more resources. So let's start with the supply and demand situation. So with Indeed, we are a job search engine. We operate currently in 60 countries all around the world. So this is some bragging. Please excuse me. Yeah, 60 countries, great. Cool for me. So I will go on with the bragging, but I will stop pretty soon with that. Just to give you an idea. So currently we have around 300 million plus visitors, unique visitors on our platform each month. Usually a unique visitor visits us 2, 3, 4 times maybe a month, depending on the country and the market. So this basically gives you like an idea of, from your perspective, the supply side, right? So this is basically the talent you can attract. That's great. And here comes the problem, because we also have around 30 million plus jobs on our platform, and basically the number is growing on a daily basis. Because we have a labor shortage, and many companies then think, well, I have to do something. So usually one reaction is I just post more jobs, which can be a solution, but not, it doesn't have to be, so to say. So this basically leads us to 10 job seekers per job. Right? This first sounds like a great number, I get that, so what should go wrong? We have 10 job seekers per job, well, that's great, but the problem right now is that especially in certain verticals, you will need more job seekers per job, because A, maybe people are just applying a bit randomly, well, they never do that, but let's imagine people apply randomly to a certain vacancy that they're not overly qualified to do that. I used to work in staffing, trust me, I know that. And on the other hand, maybe one person in your company says, right, you have 15 people right now and I love it, but maybe could you get a 16th one, because just for the sake of getting a 16th one, so yeah, okay. All right, so 10 job seekers per job leads us to some point, but it's not overly satisfying. And especially if we then look at local differences, because what I just showed you right now is basically the macro level, right? I'm talking about global numbers right now. In the end, if you have like an office here in Budapest, for example, that number is nice to know, and you can then say you heard Norman Mauer standing on a stage bragging about how big indeed it is, well, but this leads you basically nowhere. So what I did right now, I pulled some numbers. So in Hungary, we currently have around 2 million plus unique visitors on our platform. Same system here, like 2 to 3 times visiting our page, all that stuff, it's good. So what you can see right now, so I'm not very good at geography, trust me, but this is Hungary. So it is Hungary. So by the way, if someone with a red-green color impairment is in the audience, I'm sorry. This came to me this morning that maybe the color scheme isn't that a great idea, but anyway. So what you can see right now is basically numbers about the software engineering vertical on our page, meaning that everyone who is able to code something is in this statistic. And besides the outline of this beautiful country, you can also see like certain dots, and these dots represent numbers. Basically speaking, the bigger the dot, the more unique visitors on our platform are in a certain geographical location. So Budapest and the metro area of Budapest usually, and this is like a common scheme for basically every country, has a lot of visitors. So that's great. Hooray, a lot of visitors from the software engineering vertical in Budapest. But you may be also noticing the color code here. And this is the problem, because the redder the bubble, the higher or the worse the supply and demand situation is. And basically, again, no fear-mongering, but if you know your figures from a certain location, right, you can react to that. If you know that the supply and demand situation in a certain city is X, Y, Z, and then maybe you are able to basically twist and turn the knobs on your recruiting campaign and adjust your, and we'll get to that in a second, process to that. Just to give you a comparison right now, this is UK. We have a lot of visitors in UK with 53 million visitors on our platform. And software engineering, after basically COVID and the incorporation of flex work, really spread throughout the whole country, because people were finally able to code at home and not to come to an office, which they could do before, but well, there were reasons that these people should come to the office. Anyway, so as you can see right here, local differences are very important. And knowing these numbers is also very important, because then you have like a supply and demand situation, you know the market, and you can talk about it and write about it, or let ChatGPT write about it. See, I mentioned ChatGPT. So, question is, where does this lead us? And as you maybe have heard or read or whatever, I used to work in marketing and in technical project management, marketing for TV channels and all that stuff. So basically, besides my staffing career, I'm not really like firm with the HR business, but I like processes. I really like I like tuning processes. So, and this is why I thought maybe it's interesting for you to think about a certain mindset, because a certain mindset, and especially a marketing and technology marketing mindset, usually leads to a place where you can really work alongside figures and numbers if you want to reach a certain goal. And this is why I think sometimes thinking like an advertiser just makes sense, because the advertising business and the media buying business, or the media business itself, is a very number-driven business, right? Nobody in the world will play out a marketing campaign, especially in TV, where the prices are really steep, without knowing figures and numbers before. So this usually means supply and demand. We already had that, and then the things that people actually want in that supply and demand situation. We'll get to that in a second. So, because the good thing is that basically there's always one similarity. If we're talking about buying a car, if we talk about buying groceries, or if we let's talk about finding a job, or basically exploring your job opportunities, or whatever you want to call it, because the way that people consume media is pretty much the same everywhere. You can see here, this is our job seeker funnel. Okay, honestly spoken, this is not our job seeker funnel. This is our color coding for a job seeker funnel. This is just a job seeker funnel. So people start to search. If they find something interesting, they click on it, on our platform for sure, and then they hopefully apply. Then, for example, we send these people over to you, and then they have an interview, hopefully within 5 days or 10 days, not 5 weeks or 6 weeks, but that's a different story. I will get to that in a second, trust me. Trust me. And hopefully then you have a new hire, a new colleague in your company. Congratulations to that. It's great. And This concept can be very easily translated to a classical marketing concept known as AIDA concept. I'm not talking about the ship right now. I'm talking about the AIDA concept right now. So, any cruise fans in the audience? So, attention, interest, desire, and action. So this is basically very common. You all know this principle. Like attention, something grabs your attention in the TV, right? The beer glass comes in, the music is playing. You can see like the water bubbles on the beer glass, and then you think, right now I could really use a cold beer. So this basically then follows up into an interest point. So basically you stick with the advert, right? So, okay, I'm sticking with you. On a job platform, we're talking about the title, because the title of the advert usually grabs my attention, and then my interest is raised, therefore I'm sticking with the job ad. Then, hopefully, a certain desire comes along. I know this is a very pathetic word or big word in the context of job search, but let's talk about desire for a second. So I now have the desire to apply for a job because it's such a great job. I want that job so much. And then in the end, you have an action point out of it. Basically, in our case, it's clicking the apply button. So basically, you have to have content around these 4 stages. The good thing is, people give us a very clear indication of what they seek because, in our case, via the what and the where field. So what do I want in which city? Because what they seek is what they want. If they type in a certain title, for example, they really want to have a clear answer, right? So if I, for example, go to Google, and I type in wine, I want to read the word wine in the results. This is how we tick, right? So we want like a clear answer. We pose a question to a machine and we demand a clear answer. So what people seek is what people want. If I know what people seek, I can adjust my content, my process to what people seek, and then I can just basically create content pieces around that. This is why, for example, why our matching works as it works, right? So we usually look at 2 perspectives, relevancy and attainability. This is, by the way, I'm not talking about Indeed right now. This also works for Google. This is classical SEO, right? So how relevant is your job content to a certain target group? For example, software engineers. And how attainable is your content? Meaning, how much information do you incorporate into your job ad so people can make a decision if this job is valuable for them, yes or no. Just to give you some ideas, certain companies are more attractive than other companies. This is pretty clear. So you maybe want to incorporate more information about your company. The title, the occupation, benefits, I will get to that in a second. But we'll also talk about salary, by the way, so brace yourself. Certifications, locations, past work experience. Basically, that means the more relevant information you incorporate into your job ad, the better. I'm talking about relevant information right now. There's a lot of irrelevant information in the world, but I'm talking about relevant information. Just to give you an example. Let's talk about the title. Can I just get a hands up? Who of you is looking for software engineers, coders, all that stuff? Some hands, okay? Usually, when I do a workshop whatsoever, I ask them, have you ever used the title Coding Ninja or something? And then somebody said, yeah, one of my department heads had the great idea to use the title Coding Ninja. And honestly spoken, this never works. I'll give you an example why this never works. I looked up what people search for before they click on a software development job in Hungary last month. People type in C#, Java, embedded software, Angular, software developer software. So there is no Coding Ninja in here. And well, what a surprise. I spoiled it. I'm sorry. Second thought, honestly, if you think about how the search behavior is, it's perfectly clear. A software coder speaks a language, a software coding language, right? So they tend to search for the language they speak. So the more you incorporate these kinds of information in the title and in the job content piece itself, the better. This is a very obvious thing, but if you see these figures, you really have to think about stop using fancy job titles that just don't work. They're not work alongside your target group. Second thought, second thing, content, right? So you have the title right now. What about the job ad itself? First of all, form follows function. Trust me on that. This is very important. Form follows function is very important. The function of a job ad is not describing the whole history of your company, right? You can do that in the job interview when you already have the person in the room, but honestly spoken, the job content piece itself is just like a sort of invitation to a further discussion, conversation, whatsoever. So this leads me to one nice information I always love to bring up in these kinds of situations. So when do people look for jobs? So usually, like I said, in workshops, I will always ask the question, and then people say, well, in the evening with a glass of red wine, having the TV on, sitting in front of a cozy fire, whatsoever, blah, blah, blah. No, they don't do that. People look for jobs when they are at work. So this, yeah. So ask yourself, what are your employees doing right now? So yeah, it's pretty fun. But so it makes perfect sense that long Lord of the Rings size job AdWords will not work, because nobody in the world will just have the time to look at such a long AdWord while they are at work. I just love it that's basically, it's everywhere the same, right? I love that. So we're all same people. That's why I said we have so many similarities all over the world. In the end, we are just human beings. So, by the way, 69% of all job searches in Hungary take place on mobile devices. Again, another point to my argument that if you want to create a functioning, effective job advertisement, be short, be brief, be relevant, right? That's very important, honestly spoken, and I'm not joking. I've seen job advertisements with 15,000 characters or more, right? It's hilarious. It's really hilarious. And by the way, short job advertisements usually create more applications, right? Between 700 and 2,000 characters, including blanks, because a blank is a character, by the way, create 30% more applications overall. And then the question is, what do people actually want? Well, that's a very philosophical one, I know. I think about it a lot of time. So basically, public transportation is close by, bonus schemes, food and drinks, parking spaces, childcare, flexibility, all these things are usually benefits if they're concrete in the job ad that usually lead to more applications and clicks and all that stuff. So again, for example, flat hierarchies, right? It's not a benefit. A flat hierarchy is just it's a common thing that pops up in job advertisements. I have absolutely no clue why, because this is not a benefit. It's just like a description of your daily work, right? So think about what could you bring up that people really need. Just maybe ask yourself the question, can somebody pay their rent with a flat hierarchy? And I don't think so. So, by the way, flexibility. In Hungary currently we have a plus 10.2% increase of job searches for remote, meaning that people just want to have a certain flexibility. Not 100% remote. I'm not talking about that I'm in the home office all of the time. I'm just talking about remote job searches. So as you can see here, this is a very clear picture why people look for flexibility. And yes, I already mentioned it, so the elephant in the room, salary information, yes, I know, this can be a very political thing, and all I can say is it just makes sense, because in the end you have around 10% more effective results when you include salary information. I'm not saying that people are greedy, I'm just saying that every one of you knows this Maslow pyramid, right? So basically the salary is just the ground information that everybody needs. That's just, like I said, you have to pay your rent and you have to pay for your groceries, and that stuff is currently not getting cheaper at all. So basically, if you are able to include salary information, do it, or include a range or whatsoever, but just give the people what they want. I know it sounds a bit odd, but I think you get my drift here. So the other part, well, I love this graphic here. There are also like other parts to the whole equation, like how do I feel while I'm working, right? How do I feel energized and all these things? And I was kind of surprised when we had the results of the survey, but 46% of the people said that their expectations around work well-being increased in the last year, and 80% say that these metrics are important before they apply. So think about what you can do positively for a person in your company and just incorporate it into the job ad. So overall, by the way, if you have like very extensive application processes, be aware people will just abort. Like if you have 45 plus screener questions, and yes, this is not a number I made up, you can be sure that you lose a lot of talent here. And this is because the median time for an application process is just 5 minutes. So think about how long it will take to get through your registration form on your career page. Last thing, before I will stop, always look at the conversion rates between impressions, clicks, and applies, right? How many impressions do I get? You can just basically look at the number in Google. How many clicks do I get out of this? And how many applies were a result of that? Because you can buy nothing with impressions and clicks. It's all about the apply. So do A/B testing. Think about what you can do to adjust that process. And again, to sum it up, think like an advertiser. Know your target group, know your numbers. Clear communication, brief, concrete. Be consistent. Again, form follows function, and adopt and adjust if it's not working as planned. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.